Can you look at this problem and tell me what the answer is? Yeah, so the answer is not the important part, it's the process. Okay? How do you undo a square root? Square it. Is that what I need to do? Both sides. Why both sides? If I don't, it changes the problem, right? What do I have left on the left-hand side of the equation if I square something that's being square rooted? In this case, x. But in general, what do I have left if I square something that's being square rooted? Whatever's inside, right? Does that make sense? So I have an x, and on the right-hand side I have 16. Again, I knew that beforehand, right? Now, is this the right answer? Are you positive? How could you be positive? Plug it back in. 16. Square root of 16? Does 4 equal 4? Okay? Do we do that on every problem? It's important that we do it on every problem, right? I need to redo this problem so that you mathematically understand what's happening in the background. Okay? It's actually kind of a shortcut to say, oh, we're squaring something that's being squared, so that's what's happening. Okay? Remember, it's not even that it's a shortcut, it's just a different way to think about it. Is that fair? Okay? So remember, based on our exponent foldables, based on what we've been talking about in the last couple days, that the square root of x is also the same as x to the 1/2 power, right? Yes? Okay? So if I start this problem all over again, I need to figure out how to solve it this way as well. Now, you know and I know that if I'm starting off with the same problem, I should get the same answer, right? Okay? But fundamentally, what I need to end up with is x with an exponent of 1, right? Well, the only way that I can get an exponent of 1 when I already have an exponent of 1/2 is I have to use our exponent rules from the other day and raise it to a power. I have to raise this side to a power. Well, how do I decide what power to raise it to? Any guesses? Well, I do in this specific case, but in general, how do I decide what power to raise it to? That's close. That's closer. Reciprocal. That's exactly right. Okay? Because in this case, it is 1/2, but what if it was 3/2? I couldn't just square it, right? I mean, I could, but that would add an extra step. I don't want it in there. Okay? So if I'll raise it to the reciprocal of this power, which, like you said, in this case is 2, which I agree with, won't that, when I do my exponent rules, when I multiply those together, won't I just end up with an x here? But if I square this side, I have to raise the other side to the exact same power. Same answer. I knew that I would get the same answer because it was the same problem, right? Okay. Did they get harder? Yeah. Because this one's written this way, is it all right if we think this way? All right. How do we undo a square root? Both sides? Okay. If I square both sides, what's left on the left-hand side? X plus 4. What's left on the right-hand side? I thought they were getting harder. Oh, this is harder because it has x plus 4 inside? Oh, okay. Now, why didn't I say x squared plus 16? So when I square a square root, it doesn't affect what's left. It's just whatever is underneath the root sign is what I get. Does that make sense? Okay. Is this the right answer? Are you positive? We should check it. 96 plus 4, square root of 100. Does 10 equal 10? Then I'm positive it's the right answer. This one's definitely a harder one, right? Maybe not. Why do some people think it's harder? Because it's a cube root. How do we undo a cube root? Cube. If I cube this side, I have to cube this side. What's left on the left-hand side if I cube a cube root? whatever's under the cube root. So x plus 1 in this case equals 64. To solve for x, 63. Is it the correct answer? We should check. 63 plus 1. The cube root of 64 is 4. Does 4 equal 4? Now I'm positive it's the correct answer. What should I do first? Not this time. I have to isolate it first, don't I? Before I can start cubing stuff? Do I always have to isolate it first before I start cubing stuff? No, I don't. Okay. I could go ahead and cube both sides right now. I could. Okay, but I would have to make sure to cube this number and cube this thing and cube this thing. That's a perfectly fine way to do it. Do you want to work with 8 cubed? Why work with 8 cubed when I could work with 2 cubed? Okay? Is it wrong? No, it's not. Okay? We could deal with smaller numbers if we divide by 4 first. Is that fair? So if I divide by 4 first, I get the cube root of x plus 6 equals 2. And now, like you said a second ago, I will cube both sides. So x plus 6 will equal 8. And then when I subtract 6 from both sides, I get x equals 2. Oh yeah, I didn't mean to underline it yet. Sorry, I'm not positive that's the right answer. 2 plus 6, 8. Okay, so we got this far, and they were like, oh, this one's wrong. Because I've got 8 here, and I've got 8 over here. Well, don't you need to be patient with yourself? Yeah? Okay, so 2 plus 6 is 8. That's true. What is the cube root of 8? 2, and 2 times 4. So is it alright if there's a bunch of 8s in the problem? Yeah, we don't panic. We just are confident now that that's the right answer. Okay? Questions? Be careful. What do you want to do first? Square both sides? Okay. If I square both sides, what do I end up with on the left-hand side? 4x. And what do I end up with on the right side? Be careful. That's what I was afraid you would say. Guys, what does it mean to square something? What does it mean to square something? Multiply it by itself. I have to multiply this by itself, which means I have to distribute. If all I ever do is square the first term and square the last term, I will get it wrong every time. Don't do that. If it's asking you to square it, you have to square the whole side. Okay? So if I go here, I get x squared. If I go here, I get minus 3x and minus 3x. What does that give me? Minus 6x. And then if I go here, I get plus 9. Now what? Why do you want to subtract 4x? What do you want to get it equal to? 0, right? I want to get it equal to 0. I do want to combine my like terms, but I'm combining my like terms so that it equals 0. Because once it gets equal to 0, how can I solve it? Starts with an F and it's not the bad one. We can factor it, right? Factoring. What multiplies to be 9 and adds to be negative 10? Someone else, please? if these factors both equal 0, when I multiply them together, what has to be true about at least one of those factors? One of them has to be 0, right? Well, which one? Can't they both possibly be 0? So we have to take that into account. Do you remember doing this? I only did it a couple weeks ago. X equals 9. X equals 1. Are they right? Are they both right? We should check. Okay? 9. 4 times 9. 36. What's the square root of 36? 6. Okay? What's 9 minus 3? Does 6 equal 6? Awesome. I'm confident about that answer. 1. 4 times 1. 4. Square root of 4? 2. Okay? 1 minus 3. Does 2 equal negative 2? Did we do something wrong? This answer right here is called an extraneous solution. It's an extra solution that we got when we were solving the problem, but it doesn't work. Okay? In particular, this particular problem, it's because we squared stuff. What happens when we squared stuff? What shape does it make? A parabola, right? How many times is a parabola typically going to cross the x-axis? 2 times, right? But look back at the original problem. What shape is this? It's a square root function, right? And typically, how many times does a square root function cross the x-axis? Only 1. Okay? So by squaring both sides, we kind of created another solution so that we could actually find the actual solution. Does that make sense? Okay? Are there any questions on what I'm asking you to do today? Okay? I would like to make something very clear. I did not purposely give you any examples like number 7 in your homework. It's not to be mean. It's because I want to see how you're going to react to that problem. I want to see what you're going to do. We discussed parts of it in these other examples. Okay? I would like to see what you do with it. So if you have questions on number 7, are you allowed to ask? Absolutely. Okay? But I do want you to try it first. I want you to attempt it first. Okay? Any questions?